Is starting. And I'm going to share, first I'll introduce myself. So I'm Clorinda. I am one of the staff of Culture Push. I act as the executive director. I'm one of the co-founders. And y'all, I'm gonna pass it along to Moira.
Hi, everyone. I'm Moira. I am the disability cultural activist here at Culture Push. I am also an access doula, so C and I are going to be helping you out with things. If you need anything on the chat, or you can just DM us. I don't know if I just offered up your services, C, but we're here to help. Please do speak out loud if you prefer. That's great by all of us. And if you don't want us to read stuff out from the chat out loud, and just add that to the chat. If you have questions or if you want to read it out loud, it's up to you. Just let us know. Yeah, and I'm going to do an image description, which I'm doing this backwards. Sorry. I have long dark hair. I have bangs that are kind of to the right. I'm wearing large glasses that have purple spots on them. I have a long face. I'm a light-skinned Lenape, Kickapoo, and Sami person. I have dark blue eyes, and I have a blue long sleeve hoodie on, and I have a crunchy, squiggly, gray, black, brownish textural close-up of a black willow tree bark behind me. And I'm going to pass it off to Danae.
Thank you, Moira. Good evening, everyone. So good to be with you tonight. My name is Danae Howard. I am a part of Culture Push team as the Black Utopian Fellowship director. I work with Culture Push in many different ways, working with fellows and just doing all of the fun things that we have going on in terms of programming and just wondering how to further assist our fellows. I'm also a teacher and an artist and community programming type of person. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to pass it on to C.
Hi, friends. Good to be here with everybody. My name's C. I have been working with Culture Push as the administrative collaborator for the better part of this year. And I'm also a poet, I'm also a teacher, and very involved in the ongoing response to the ongoing HIV and AIDS crisis. So very happy to be in this, hopefully you can see, really multifaceted mix of people, and happy to be here with you.
So we are four of at this point, 7 or 8 person team. So just so you know, like, we are a collective of artists. For everybody on the team is an artist of one kind or another. And we work together to kind of create a supportive space for everybody that comes through. Okay, so I'm going to, hold please, share the official slideshow made by one of our people who is not currently present, but super important, Serbi Naik, who works with our digital media and manages it all. So, cool. Can everybody see the slideshow that is there? Yes, great. All right, I'm going into slideshow mode. All right, here we are. Open call. Online information session. So who we are. So we are an arts organization that creates programs that nurture artists and other creative people who are approaching common problems through hands-on civic participation and imaginative problem solving. And we'll say a lot more about that. Here we are. ta-da, you've met 4 of us, and then you can see Sneha and Sir are kind of diagonally, create a diagonal with C there in the middle. That's our tree of life, and there's even more branches actually, but that is the core. So here you see this is a graphic that's made up of our 2023 symposium, and it's basically kind of showing you the wide range of things that we deal with, and because we're interested in where art will go and can go in this particular cultural moment, and that's kind of an evergreen idea that we work with, because Culture Push has been around 15 years, and you can say that in any year and it will be true. So the idea is to be fluid and keep moving with the culture. And we hope to inspire social engagement and interdisciplinary creativity. So when we started Culture Push, we noticed that there are a lot of specialized fields and they divide us. But at the time that we started, all these open resources were making it possible to exchange knowledge and information really quickly. That has its upsides and downsides, but we try to work with the upsides. And we want to support the experiments that adventurous practitioners bring about, and to both use these specializations and go beyond it, so that everybody gains access to exciting ideas and new practices, including the people developing them have a space where they can develop them. And we are explicitly dedicated to anti-racist practices and supporting projects that strive to create a more just, open, and pleasurable world. So there's a new thing this fall. We used to have a cycle that was 2 times a year. We had applications coming in, but we are now switching to once a year for a variety of reasons. One of which is that people who came in really enjoy being in a cohort, and that's easier when you all start at the same time. So we do have a climate justice fellowship, but that won't be, the application for that won't be open till next fall. In case you're wondering and you're like, will there be a climate justice fellowship in the spring? No, we are sorry to say no. That doesn't mean if there's climate justice, environmental justice applications out there, that's cool. They're still very welcome. But all the applications go through the same online application form, and we'll talk more about that later too. See, is this where I said I don't actually know what do you want to take over? Why not?
Yeah, sure. Hi friends. I'll just talk to you very briefly about one of our, I guess now 4 fellowships. And the fellowship for Utopian Practice is our longest running. It was established in 2012. And we really view it as a platform for artists and creative professionals to test new ideas through civic engagements. So really excited. We're really excited by folks who are sort of at the front end of an idea, and trying to figure out how that idea can meet the public in various ways. We offer financial aid, feedback, and mentorship, and it's open to all disciplines seeking beyond traditional practice. Many of us are multi-hyphenate thing makers in our own rights, and so it only makes sense to sort of welcome that as well. So through supporting the experiments of adventurous practitioners, Culture Push seeks to both use and also go beyond specialization so that folks of all backgrounds can gain access to exciting ideas and new practices. Um,
Oh, hold on. Okay.
shall I keep going?
Yeah, why not?
Sure. So little timeline. Our journey from 2012 to 2016. Um, a lot happened. We supported the creation of radical free libraries, um, choreographed dances with individuals in solitary confinement, enabled community workshops exploring emergent communities through the intersection of art and science, encouraged local artists to create work within their own communities, and orchestrated collaborations with day laborers to create a wage theft identifying app. So hopefully, as you can see from even just these five, examples, the way that a creative idea can meet the public is sort of infinitely various, and it's that like eternal question mark that is very exciting, I think, to us.
And just by the way, that was just 5 out of probably that was 4 years.
Mhm.
14, like 25 to 30 fellowships. And so we have had at least 45, maybe more fellowships. And in that time, some of those are collectives. So we've gone through a lot of different ideas, and also each time it's a new year, it's a new context. So
yeah,
take it away.
Yeah, and so a little bit more specifically, a glance at some recent fellows projects. Folks are up to really exciting stuff, such as preserving images and stories of queer elders in Harlem, which I feel often gets sort of overlooked and whitewashed in the sort of New York City AIDS history. I mean, AIDS and queer history. Gathering oral histories of food culture in NYC Bangladeshi communities, exploring waterfronts as spaces of environmental and social resistance. Extremely exciting to remember that we are in fact on an island and water, is a huge part of our life. Fellows have also engaged with communities directly affected by gun violence, going beyond memorials. And then finally, developing African traditional religious healing approaches for evolving the world. So these, like I said, are some more recent works that folks have been up to.
Moira speaking, sorry.
Moira,
I just
please.
wanted to add too that many of the people who received the fellowship, particularly within the few of the projects that we just shared with you, just named, go on to get other grants and grow their project. And sometimes the project goes into other ways that they never even thought it would. And we love that. We love to see y'all grow. We love to see you get more money as artists and creative people, and for you to be surprised and continually engaged with your own work and projects. That's it. Moira out.
Thank you, Moira. So here's starting to get into a little nitty gritty. This cycle, we are bringing in fellows for 3 different fellowships. We have the Disability Arts Fellowship, Black Utopian Fellowship, and then what we have been started to call fellowship, just general fellowship, which means projects that may not fall into either of those buckets, but are still super welcome. And just want to point out the beautiful art by above is by Moira. Below on the right hand side is by Moira, and then below is by Danae, and then to your left is a construction by Sir. So deadline is April 30th. I'm getting ahead of myself. September 30th. Thank you. Okay. So I'll just talk through the fellowship, so-called general fellowship, and then Moira and Danae will talk you through the fellowships that they're spearheading. So it's a testing ground for new ideas that connect artistic practice, civic engagement, and social justice. And I always use this triangle when I'm explaining it. I'm holding up my fingers in a triangle because those are the 3 points: artistic practice, civic engagement, and social justice. And you know, the angles on that triangle may shift. There may be more of one or another, but those are the essential elements. Oops, go back. So we seek to serve people by providing creative, analytical, and logistical tools so that people can really take the time to develop a method and then create truly transformative projects. So I will talk more about this later, but we don't expect people to necessarily have finished a project by the end. So when we say truly transformative projects, we don't expect in 1 year. That's not how it goes. It's that you get the time and the space in order to create the base where you can fly from and then transform like a butterfly. Okay. So it's a process-based fellowship, as we've said, but it's worth emphasizing. And it's open to artists and other professionals working in any discipline who wish to expand the boundaries of their practice. And again, I'll say this later, we are especially interested in people who are at the beginning of a creative journey. And it's not, doesn't depend on age, it just depends on what your life circumstances are. And it's an umbrella. The Fellowship for Utopian Practice is the umbrella that contains the Black Utopian Fellowship, the Disability Arts Fellowship, and also the Climate Justice Fellowship. So 6 to 8 fellows are selected for each application cycle, and 2 slots are for this cycle will be dedicated to the Black Utopian Fellowship, and 1 slot is dedicated to the Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship, and then the rest are the floating. Who knows? It's a mystery. I mean, it's all going to be kind of mysterious, honestly. Doesn't matter where you apply. Okay. Does somebody want to take this since I've been talking a lot? Thank you.
While you're speaking, I can do it. What do we mean by process-based? Process-based working and thinking means giving yourself permission to slow down, to take time to think and contemplate, ask questions, dream vibrantly, play, incubate ideas, try them out, make mistakes, try ideas out again, critically analyze ideas, consider factors like feasibility, practicality, and alignment with goals or constraints. Try different approaches, challenge conventions, and create emergent strategies. It also means assessing the strengths and weaknesses of each idea and determining which ideas feel the best and have the most potential. So again, it's about being slow, taking your time, giving yourself permission to do that, and to change directions or ways of thinking, to fail, try it again, try it again, and try it again. Think it out.
I'm sorry, Moira.
Moira out.
I was just going to add that another sort of maybe obvious but worth saying thing is process-based as opposed to like product based, as opposed to like we're waiting for you to deliver us a deliverable thing. Just to name the antithesis also, I guess, sometimes is useful.
Yes, it's so you may end up completing a project within a year, but you may just complete a process and a methodology. Thank you, Moira, for saying that and for writing this, by the way. All right. Great. Do you want to also read this, which you also wrote?
Sure.
There's also a question in the chat.
Do we need to
I think
answer it before the questions section?
I think it is relevant to just what was explained, because they're asking about what they said what would define the beginnings of a creative journey when applying.
Yeah, the whole question reads, I would love to know if there are any formal parameters as to what would define the beginning of creative journey, i.e. if grants have been received previously or any kind of publishing or exhibiting in any capacity, etc.
Yeah, that's a good question. It can be. There can be some beginning to the process, but if it has reached, like, if you've had a production or had a published version, and this is an iteration of that, that would probably be not appropriate. It's more like, oh, I had an in process something and maybe got a tiny grant in order to do it. That's still at the beginning in our view. Yeah, so there, some of our associated artists, which is another part of this, are further along in the journey, but in terms of the fellowship, we're really looking for the raw, like, beginning, crunchy beginnings. Yeah.
Were those helpful answers for you? Okay, good. Thanks, everybody. So the question is, what do we mean by civic engagement? So at Culture Push, we define civic engagement as collaboration and group learning through active and participatory experiences. It is collective activism and advocacy working to bring about political or social change through increasing public awareness of and support for specific causes. Past fellows have engaged with prison abolition, trans rights, Black joy and liberation, disability justice, and climate justice, to name a few. Do you want me to go on?
Sure, unless, Danae, do you want to?
I can read.
Yeah.
The fellowship program is open to all artists and other professionals working in any discipline who wish to expand the boundaries of their practice. We are especially interested in people who are at the beginning of their journey as creative practitioners and who lack access to resources. Applicants are encouraged to review our organization's mission on our website, as well as specific nature of this open call before submitting materials. You can see this at culturepush.org/guidelines.
And I'm going to drop that link into the chat just for easy access for everyone here.
So yeah. Oh, sorry, go on, Danae.
I was just saying thanks, C.
Oh. So this is just something important to note, is that we're really trying to reach people who may not have a lot of access to traditional resources and who are beginning some kind of creative journey. It can be a turn from a previous profession. It could be somebody young, but it is basically like you're at the beginning of a creative journey, and you're also trying to understand how to bring your work into a more civically engaged space. Okay. Danae, do you want to read our mission?
Sure. Our mission. The mission of Culture Push is to create a likely exchange of ideas between many different communities, artists and non-artists, professionals, practitioners, and lay people across generations, neighborhoods, and cultures. Culture Push supports the process of creating new modes of thinking and doing, and serves as a as a diverse community of creative people. The programs of Culture Push focuses on collaboration and group learning through active participatory experience. Culture Push programs appear in many different locations, taking many different forms, and public presentations are low cost or free to give access to the widest audience.
That's our mission. And that's one thing we want you to pay attention to as you're thinking about your new idea. All right. This is all you.
There is another question in the chat that I wonder if we could just maybe
Let's
touch
keep the
quickly.
questions until the question period, because
Okay.
they're all gonna accumulate, and then we can have leisure to discuss them.
Okay, friends, then so feel free to keep putting them in, and if I forget you by the end, please just let me know.
Okay.
Okay, the
your
Black
show.
Utopian Fellowship is an incubator fellowship created by Day One's Art in collaboration with Culture Push. The BUF is a year-long fellowship for Black artists, researchers, scientists, and inventors with career development and mentorship through a connection with Black-run institutions. The intent of the Black Utopian Fellowship is to share resources and support social engagement, educational programming, and revitalization of communal hubs.
Do you want to say anything about that before I move on? Self-explanatory.
I believe that I work to strive with the fellow to aid in producing their ideas, whether that's on a beginning to a project or some type of programming. And I do also strive to get them in contact with other Black run institutions or Black led companies that are like working within the same realms. So that's a little bit. Shaping realities in innovators. This year's BUF call challenges innovators to envision and create the world we aspire to see, more accessibility, inclusive, and engaging.
And I've just dropped the link in the chat also, friends.
Okay, we aim to highlight the transformative potential of technology, focusing on the intersections of design, applied sciences, and storytelling in the burgeoning digital age. We explore the foundations of analog play as a launchpad for pioneering ideas. We are interested in projects that encompass instances of civic engagement and unprecedented leadership. As long as you have an open mind, you can create your body. We encourage artists and visionary thinkers to seize this opportunity to pioneer transformative projects at the forefront of gaming, design, and storytelling. We are considering the following and more. Coding games that would include programming language and logic for tasks, organizing games for operating systems, implementing systems, digital humanities that would include archive, adventure, survival, roleplay, fantasy, strategy, and puzzle. We're also considering clean water or food systems and environmental design, agricultural simulations, and irrigation infrastructure. And we're also contemplating new tech with a focus on accessibility. That would mean adaptive sports, sensory games, educational games, visually impaired, mixed disability resources.
Okay, thank you, Danae. And now Moira.
Sorry,
what?
I wanted
Yes.
to say one other thing. I did
Okay.
state that the fellowship is in collaboration with Day One's Art, and I forgot to say what Day One's Art is. Day
Okay.
One's Art is a collective that I started with a couple of friends from New York City who are also artists back in 2016, where we were just doing pop-ups, and it evolved into us doing pop-ups and programming, and now hosting a fellowship in collaboration with Culture Push. So that's a little bit about Day Ones. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Moira.
Hi, everyone. This is Moira again. And I see a couple new folks. Welcome, welcome. So just a little more about myself. I didn't mention that I am disabled. I have a constellation of disabilities. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this, because I am here as a disabled person to support you during all the fellowships, just so you all know that all the fellowships get disability support and access support, and we can work that out together throughout your time as a fellow here at Culture Push. But this year we're going to be doing our first, yay, Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship. And we talked about it and felt that doing a curatorial fellowship would be super cool. And it also allows to, from my own experience, I am an artist, but also a curator, you bring more folks along with you, and there tends to be a different kind of hierarchical power structure that I'd love to see us all break down and break apart in the art world. But curators have a little more power than artists do, especially when artists are independent. But as a curator, I've been able to shift some of the ways that several galleries think, even if it's not completely changed over. It seems that things change things over to more accessibility regardless, once they've experienced working with a disabled curator and seeing the awesomeness that disabled creatives bring into the space along with the curator. So this I think it's really exciting to me. That's why I'm blah, blah, blah. But anyway, and that's a little bit about me. I get excited. So it's our first Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship. And I'm going to say yay again. Open call invites self-identifying disabled independent curators and artists, organizers, professional practitioners, lay people, creative individuals, or collectives, pretty much anyone who wants to think about curatorial work, who has creative thinking, critical thinking. And yes, collectives too, to submit a disability curatorial research project in its very beginning stage. And for this fellowship, it needs to be in its very beginning stage. And the reason for that is that I'm here to help you form it and make, think about what is an accessible disability show for both you, the artists, and your audience. And so the Disability Curatorial Fellowship supports the process of cultivating and testing new ideas through civic engagement and co-thinking, thinking through emergent disability cultural strategies like access as art or creative accessibility, growing your disability-centered curatorial voice into a curatorial statement, and making viable plans for sparking more emergent disability culture in the arts. The fellowship supports the processes of thinking through and pulling together an accessible exhibition. While we do not offer a specific exhibition opportunity, we will help the fellow in finding opportunities. So this is not about curating a show and then it ends in an exhibition. However, if that's what you want to pursue, we can help you do that and help you find funding. So again, we're here to support your dreams. We are really interested in civically engaged disability curatorial ideas. about emergent accessibility, again, access as art, DIT, do it together access, and do it together any kind of work, relational access, creative high tech to lo-fi virtual accessibility, any way that access as an integral and creative expression can be woven into disability arts. So DIT, do it together, is a revision of the term, the word DIY, do it yourself, that we, like DIY, we want to foster partnerships, co-creation, and appreciation of collective success and access and interdependence rather than just individual achievement. And there's a beautiful quote by Grace Lee Boggs that really expresses a lot of this about, for me, like what civically engagement means. And it's like, you cannot change any society unless you take responsibility for it, unless you see yourself as belonging to it and responsible for changing it. Thank you, Grace Lee Boggs. Thanks. Moira out. Oh, wait. And there's another slide. We're going to be having an upcoming information session specifically for the Disability Curatorial Fellowship, and that's September 14th, 2024 from 6 to 7 p.m. And then we're also going to have an upcoming working session that'll be 2 hours. And that's where if you have questions or if you want to write together or think things out, that's what we'll do. And that's super cool. That's September 21st, 2024, 6 to 7 p.m. Thanks, everyone.
Actually, it would be 6 to 8. Sorry,
Oh,
there's a typo.
6 to 8.
Because
Sorry.
it's 2 hours. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Moira. Thank you, Moira. And here's a link. La 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 la. Yay. Yes. Very exciting. We're really interested to see what happens with this particular fellowship. Each time we bring in a theme, something exciting and new happens. So what will happen with this? We want to find out. Okay. What is the deadline? What is the deadline? September 30th, 2024, 11:59 p.m. And guidelines again, culturepush.org/guidelines. And now, time for questions. Thank you for being patient.
Moira speaking. We answered Ellie's question, I believe, but
yes.
And then there's another question, and I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm going to pronounce your name properly. Zinan, Jinan, which says, you mentioned who lacks access to resources. What resources CP will mentor the fellows in their journeys?
Right. So we'll get into this more in detail soon, but we have a stipend. There's a small stipend from direct stipend, and then there's funding for a thought partner and for a one-time mentor, and then we have fiscal sponsorship, and that's all. So that's financial resources. And then we also have brainstorming sessions, connecting to other fellows. And we have push-pull, which is it's an online publication which sometimes comes offline, but that's a way to gather your community and your thoughts. Yeah, so a variety of things which we'll go into, but that's what we mean by support. And the brainstorming sessions are where you can talk to staff to think through what's going on and what you're thinking and what are some like philosophical and or purely practical steps you can take to think about this in a deeper way.
Moira's
Um,
speaking. There's, oh, sorry.
Nope, you got it.
Yes, you don't need to have any experience as a curator for the Disability Curatorial Fellowship. Well, that would be great if you do, or if you don't, that's great. You don't have to have any, you just need an idea. And I'm going to put my contact, my CP email in there for y'all too. And I also wanted to mention with for when you're filling out the application, there are other ways besides the Airtable form that you can send us your application, and we can go over that when we get to the applications too, particularly for the disability. You can directly email me at my Culture Push email if you need.
And actually, Moira, I'm just gonna drop all three. I'm gonna drop 3 emails into the chat for folks. So for General Fellowship, the Black Utopian Fellowship, and the Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship. These are the addresses and the folks to contact in the chat.
Great. Are there any other questions right now? If not, then we'll continue. We thought that was nitty gritty. Wait till you see the next bit. Okay. Here's a timeline. September 30th, 2024 is the deadline. And then in October, we inform the fellows. And then the initial project kind of discussion meeting start is most likely November. And then between the beginning-ish in October to the end of October in 2025, that's when continuing support and strategizing. And just to say that we understand that timelines are shifty. So sometimes people continue a bit past the year mark. Every once in a while, somebody is done before the year is over. But we do encourage at least a year of being within this dialogue and this community and the thought process in order to really find what you're thinking. So we have this where it says applicants, the eligibility, we say applicants must have 3 years of experience in their field. We are thinking of changing that. So if you're like, I only have 2, that's fine. Just send it in. We're not going to, we might even remove this from the page for the guidelines. So don't let that stop you. However, we cannot accept currently enrolled undergraduates. And then projects must be new socially engaged work that has not received any prior institutional support. And we kind of talked about that earlier. What does that mean? Does that mean you could never have done it at all? No, but major institutional support, like if you had a fellowship like the Culture Push Fellowship, if you are currently in a fellowship like the Culture Push Fellowship, this is probably not the place for you. And currently must occur within the 5 boroughs of New York City. Also, group and collaborative projects are welcome. Yes, we love groups. So to be considered for the fellowship, we ask that the projects are interactive and engage the public entirely or in part in accordance with our mission. So when we say public engaged, that can include public talks, live interactive components, skill shares, participatory performances, and activities like that, that in some way address the public good and have clearly defined goals for serving as a means of generating social change. So that's public and civic engagement. And also, when we say entirely or in part, that means that there may be private, small group working process, but at some point, we want to see that research, whatever research that is, shared with the public. And it must be testing a new and previously unrealized idea that expands the scope of the applicant's current practice. So you may in some way, let's say, you are a visual artist who has an idea that where you really want to create gatherings around a specific issue. And you're like, yeah, I've been a visual artist for a little while, but I have this need to kind of go outside of creating objects into something new. That's an example. Anything else that anybody wants to say? Great. Who would like to take this?
I can run with this one.
Okay.
So criteria for the proposed projects. So in order to be considered for the fellowship, projects must not be considered as an exhibition or the production of a show, with, of course, the exception of the Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship, but rather as a series of events and or actions aimed at engaging the public. So sort of like Clorinda was just mentioning, like if perhaps public performance is a component of whatever it is that you're interested in up to, fantastic. But yeah, we like to think of the civic engagement as more than just a public presentation. Projects must occur during the fellowship year and take place within the 5 boroughs of New York City. Projects may have components outside of this geographic region, of course, but we are unfortunately unable to support. And if your proposed project is part of a larger piece or a series, Culture Push funding may only be applied towards the public engagement component of the project, again, here in the 5 boroughs of New York.
Yeah, and that last bit is like you have a larger performance piece, but you have very specific community engagement that you're trying to develop. And we have heard from many performance people that it's hard to find any resources for that, either developing it or funding it. So that is a space where that's kind of where that would fit in, for example. And unfortunately, we don't really have capacity to keep track of things outside of the 5 boroughs. Nah, but we're thinking about it further. We're thinking about it. So check back with us in a year.
I'll keep going with what we provide. So this is hopefully just a better bullet point list answer to an earlier question. Honoraria for the project, $2,000. Fiscal sponsorship for additional grant-based fundraising and individual contributions should you need it. Strategic meetings with Culture Push staff, including development and production support. Access to materials for the arts, which is a really fantastic resource here in New York. If you need stuff, that's where you can get it. Networking meetings with Culture Push board, executive director, staff, advisors, and other fellows. We love to keep in touch with each other all the time for any reason. So we want you in the fold. And we want you to feel welcome in that fold. And marketing via the Culture Push network, email list, and social media contacts for promotion purposes. If you're not already, I'm curious how you got here, but I will drop our Instagram into the chat also. So please follow us there and keep in touch with us there and on Substack. I'll give you both of those links here shortly.
Thank you. Yes, and not just promotion, like if you are doing a project where you need to contact certain people, and we do like calls through our email lists and through the social media.
Mm-hmm.
You want to continue? Finish it out?
Yeah, totally. There's more. Also, we provide funding for a thought partner who can act as a collaborator and a sounding board. There's $1,000 situated for that. Mentorships with various experts in various fields, an opportunity to contribute to or edit our online journal Push-Pull, which, as previously mentioned, is not entirely always online. You know, it can also sometimes meet the public in exciting, unexpected ways. An opportunity to present your research and project development at the annual Culture Push Symposium, which I don't know if you've been to other symposiums, but you haven't, they're not what we do. Our symposiums are very fun. Really, really, like this summer, I think it was like 10 straight days of things happening like in different times and places that were wildly different and super nourishing, at least for my part, like in very different ways. So we'd love for you to be a part of that. Last two bullets, an opportunity to exhibit your work at a public presentation produced by Culture Push alongside past and current fellows. And then the one thing to note is that Culture Push doesn't provide a venue or exhibition space for projects, but we will work with fellows to help secure suitable sites. Yes, we don't have a brick and mortar, but we are everywhere and nowhere.
Okay, any more questions? In the chat. Okay, glad it's clear. Let's move on. All right. Grinding out the nitty-gritty. So there are 3 choices when you do these applications. There's some general details that everybody goes through. And then you'll see here, oh, you probably can't see what my cursor, but there you'll see here, there's a green, purple, and pink. And if you select one of those, it reveals new questions. Thank you, C. Okay, so Danae, do you want to talk through the Black Utopian Fellowship questions?
Sure, I don't mind. So for all of the projects that you apply to, you're going to have to put in a project narrative. I'm not sure if there are any if the questions are listed.
Oh, this is not.
It's okay. Maybe the next slide. I just was gonna say for each, you have to put in your project narrative.
Yes, you're right. This is for everything, but the
Yeah.
questions are listed on the next slide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Oh no, this is also for every question. Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
And the
So
different
I'll
work
yeah, I'll do it. Once we get to Black, so I'll just continue talking, and then you can, when we get to Black Utopian Fellowship, then you
Sure.
Sorry. So work samples. So this is often confusing because it's like work samples, but it's a new idea. What do I do? And we'll get back to that soon, but it's basically any recent relevant work samples. And you can do this through images, either as uploads or a gallery or video or audio content. Yeah, and so basically pretty much any media that we can view except not physical media, online or files. And then there's a place to upload, but then there's also a place to put your links in a text box if you're using links. resume or CV, and we prefer if these are 2 pages or less, but we understand if that can be difficult. Yes. And then this question is asked for this is important to the culture of Culture Push. Are you planning to weave in disability support accessibility into your project? And if you've already thought about that, please provide details, because we want to, as the fellows go through whatever they're going through, we want to make sure that this is part and parcel of all of the planning. So all of the fellowship projects, we ask that. And it's not, there's no punitive measures if somebody says, no, I haven't thought about it. We just want to know where you are with that thinking. So that will help us as we go forward. Okay. Now, Danae.
So with applying to the fellowship, there are some questions that we ask. We ask how your project aids in revitalizing Black futures. And that is just basically on your own agenda, your thoughts, and sharing. It also asks, what 2 Black organizations would you like to connect with through your fellowship? So in applying and understanding what your project's goals are, I will try to loop in those organizations. The last question is, if you are selected for the Black Utopian Fellowship, would you like to be considered for the fellowship? If you're not selected for the Black Utopian Fellowship, would you like to be considered for the fellowship for Utopian Practices? So that's also just inquiring if you don't fit this specific fellowship, would you like to be considered for the overall general fellowship? I think that's it.
Okay. Now, Moira.
Hi again, everybody. So for the Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship, again, you don't have to have curated anything before. Oftentimes artists, particularly artists as curators or creative people as curators, we can get the vibe through your visual work, or your poetry or drawings that if you're dreaming up an exhibition or a new way of curatorial thinking, that would be great to put those kind of images in there. And that could be a collage, that could be a video, it could be anything you like. And 2-page CV would be great. Or if it's easier for you to do a narrative bio, that's great too. And we just want to know some of your professional experience, where you're at, what you're doing, those kind of things. And then, so for this curatorial fellowship, we're really thinking about what disability justice is and how disability justice can mean so very many things, and what it means for you as a curator, and how you would follow that through in a curatorial practice, in an exhibition, in your daily life, however you want to think of it, but within a curatorial practice for these processes. And disability justice is different than the Americans with Disability Act. And simply disability justice is about interdependence, do-it-togetherness, whereas the Americans with Disability Act is about independence. And Americans with Disability Act is vitally important because at that moment, during that era of disability, disabled folks needed to become independent. And that's shifted now somewhat. So, so the focus is going to be on disability justice in your proposals. And just really want to know the different ways that people can express it in our lived experiences as disabled people and communities across disabilities. That's another key thing, very important thing, is working across disability, working with mixed abilities folks, and across age, race, gender, class, sex. And just share what your disability justice beliefs are, or ideas or concerns. You can have questions about it, ways of being and being in disability communities. And then this isn't mandatory, but it's a really great practice if you don't know what an accessibility writer is. I have one, I think, it's shared, and it's always changing. Just like me, just like my body, mind, spirit. But if you want to think about making a disability writer or practicing a short one, that would be great. You don't have to have it for the application, but to maybe just play around with one. There's a couple other templates and examples, but this is something we will definitely work on together while you're a fellow. And I think that's it. We're out.
Okay, we're coming towards the end since we've been going for a little over an hour now. But just to keep going on the application questions, we ask for one professional reference. So that's just somebody who knows your work. And then we ask if you would be interested in the associated artist program. So that you may have not be precisely right for the fellowship, but you may fit into this other program where we offer a lot of similar support, but it's usually for projects that are a little farther along. But also sometimes projects that are at the beginning, it just depends. So we always ask if people would be interested in that, even if you don't get the fellowship. Then we also want to know where you heard about us, so we have a sense of what's working in outreach. And we're curious about how you fund your projects. There doesn't have to be any particular way, but it helps us understand what you might need. And then a little space for anything else. And then we do have a demographic information. This has no bearing on your, it doesn't like determine or not determine anything about your application. It just helps us to understand who we're reaching, how we're reaching them, and the people that are interested in applying. And that it is really helpful to know that, so we can know where our gaps are or what we are succeeding at. And then there's also different accessibility questions, demographic. All right, so this is important, so I'm going to do this even though we're already over the hour. What kind of work samples should I include? Yes, strongest work samples, things that you think really represent your work at its best, at its most rigorous. And we do understand that you're proposing a project that you have not yet completed or developed. And so your work samples may not necessarily be representative of the proposed project, but they give us a sense of how you think and how you practice. But we want to see what you believe is your best face, or if you have a sketch or a similar project, even if it's not perfect, that is good too. So this is always one of the applications we like to share, because this image, it's not particularly expressive, but the way that Simone contextualizes it, helps us understand what they were thinking, what she was going through, what she was doing in this image, and how she thinks. So this is actually a helpful work sample. So contextualizing the work sample is very important part of, for us, of the work sample. It's not necessarily like we're looking at the image and that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on what you're thinking about that image in relationship to your application. So for example, Angela Miskif is another example of this. So Abuela Neighborhood Maintenance is a project that she was already doing. It is not the project that she applied for, but it's very related to the project she applied for. So it gave us a sense of how she operates, what she's thinking, how she's involved in her community. And then Cody Herman, similarly, these are all climate justice fellows, actually. So we'll get some others in there soon. We're also going to share some applications soon on our website, that full applications of particularly successful, so to speak, fellowship projects that continued after the fellowship. But for Cody Herman, she's talking about Flushing Bay and Creek. So she shared images from other projects she had done on that body of water in that context. And this is more from Simone Johnson, another drawing. It's a prototype, but trying to explain her idea. And then for Van Davian, Blessing, she was thinking about performance but also about green Afrofuturism. And so she had done a performance. And so part of what she shared with us was like the image of this performance and then a bit about what was in that performance. I know we said something about your project has to be finished in the fellowship year, but it does not. No, we said, yeah, you have to, basically we're just saying when we said you have to be done within the fellowship year, it just means that be prepared that you will end your support in the fellowship year. The project itself can be just beginning at the end of the year. So we're interested in supporting artists as they develop sustainable working strategies to pursue unusual lines of inquiry. We're more interested in that than in seeing a finished product. And as I mentioned, many fellowship projects become long-term commitments and they only begin with the fellowship. For example, the Free Black Women's Library is one of our favorite examples because it's awesome, but also because it began as a few books on a stoop, and it's now a storefront with activities every week, and every week, really every week. So things develop and change. Yes, I think we've discussed this. But do you have to live in New York? Not necessarily, but whatever you do has to take place in New York. And we cannot give money towards living in New York if you don't live in New York. But if you live near New York and you have components and partners in New York and you're really thinking about what happens in the context of New York City, that's fine. We understand the limitations of housing in the current moment, in every moment, but especially the current moment. All right, that's it. We're done. Are there other questions?
I did just want to maybe clarify, Shinan in the chat asked if thought partners can serve as mentors, if not collaborators. So I just wondered if we could clarify that.
Yeah, sure. So thought partners can be collaborators. Mentors, there's another little bit of money that's specifically for a mentor, which is different. A thought partner can be also a mentor, but a mentor meaning someone that you might not have access to otherwise without a little like money to give them, or even a class. It can be a class that you want to take. The thought partner themselves can be a mentor or a collaborator. Both of those things have happened. And yeah, that's all eligible. It's a fairly new initiative, so we're still like seeing what happens. Are there other questions? I'm gonna. Okay, and here you go. We've already said it, but we'll say it again because it always bears repeating. If you have questions about the general fellowship, please write to cp@culturepush.org. For the Black Utopian Fellowship, write to buf@culturepush.org. And for the Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship, write to moira@culturepush.org. I'm going to stop sharing. And thank you all for being here. You know where to reach us if another question comes up, because we've been blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot. And we also recorded this, and we're going to put it up on the website in case you want to revisit this. So thank you so much for being here. We really look forward to seeing your applications. Yeah, that's it.
Be well, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night.